I wrote a check for $50,000 to fund my husband's company gala. When I walked in wearing my best dress, I saw the pharmaceutical billionaire everyone was celebrating drop to one knee, proposing to my husband's assistant. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't just smiling. I was counting. They say you never really know someone until money and opportunity come into play. My name is Diane, and I'm about to tell you a story that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. But before I do, I need you to understand something. I wrote a check for $50,000 to fund my husband's company gala. When I walked through those doors in my emerald dress, I saw the pharmaceutical billionaire everyone was celebrating drop to one knee and propose to another woman. And I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I knew something nobody else in that room knew. Hit that like button right now, because what I'm about to tell you proves that karma doesn't just exist. Sometimes she's a black woman in stilettos who planned 3 moves ahead. Let me take you back to the beginning. I built my event consulting business from absolutely nothing. I'm talking about starting out in a cramped Detroit apartment, cold calling potential clients during my lunch breaks from my receptionist job, designing my first website on a laptop I bought from a pawn shop. It took me 8 years to build a 6-figure business creating luxury experiences for people with more money than they knew what to do with. I coordinated everything from celebrity weddings to corporate retreats in the Maldives. My reputation was built on one simple principle: integrity costs nothing, but it's worth everything. Jonathan came into my life when I was still climbing. He was charming, supportive, everything I thought I needed. He'd bring me coffee during late-night planning sessions, talk me through difficult client situations, and he genuinely seemed proud of what I was building. When he proposed, I thought I'd found my partner, someone who understood the hustle, who respected the grind. We got married in a small ceremony, my choice, because I'd rather invest in our future than one expensive day. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, steady income, good benefits, and he always talked about moving up the corporate ladder at Sterling Pharmaceuticals. I respected his ambition. I thought we were building something together. 8 years into our marriage, Jonathan came to me with a request that made my stomach turn. He sat me down on our couch, looking stressed, and told me that Sterling Pharmaceuticals was going through budget constraints. They needed to cut costs everywhere, including their annual investor gala. But here's the thing, this gala was crucial. It's where they wined and dined their biggest investors, including Cameron Westbrook, the 62-year-old billionaire founder who rarely made public appearances anymore. Jonathan explained that if the gala didn't happen, or if it was mediocre, it could affect his promotion. He was up for vice president of national sales, a position that would double his salary and change our lives. Then came the ask. He needed $50,000. My $50,000. The emergency fund I'd been building for years. The safety net I promised myself I'd never touch, unless it was literally life or death. Jonathan looked at me with those eyes, the same ones that had promised to support my dreams, and he said, "I know it's a lot to ask, but I need you to trust me. This promotion is guaranteed if we pull this off. I just need you to believe in me the way I believed in you." I felt something twist in my chest, but I ignored it. Isn't that what marriage is supposed to be? Sacrifice? Partnership? I thought about all the times he'd claimed he supported me, and I convinced myself this was my turn to show up for him. So, I said yes. I transferred $50,000 from my business account, money I'd earned from 12-hour days and sleepless nights, and I watched it disappear into an event that was supposed to secure our future. The week leading up to the gala was strange. Jonathan was distant, always on his phone, leaving early and coming home late. When I asked about the planning, he'd give me vague answers. "The team is handling it," he'd say. "You don't need to worry about the details." But these were details I would have obsessed over if it were my event. I knew every vendor in the city, every venue, every caterer. He didn't ask for a single recommendation, not one. That should have been my first red flag, but I was too busy trying to be the supportive wife. The night of the gala arrived, and I decided to make an entrance. If my money was funding this event, I was going to look like I belonged there. I bought an emerald green gown that cost more than I'd ever spent on a single piece of clothing. It hugged every curve, made my brown skin glow, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who'd earned her place in any room. Jonathan had left hours earlier, claiming he needed to be there for setup and last-minute coordination. He told me to arrive around 8, gave me a quick kiss, and rushed out the door. I called an Uber because Jonathan had taken our car. As we pulled up to the Riverside estate, my breath caught. The venue was stunning. Soft golden lights illuminated the waterfront property, violinists played near the entrance, and guests in designer everything glided through the doors. My $50,000 had created something beautiful, I'll give them that. But as I stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance alone, I felt something I'd never felt at an event before, like I didn't belong at my own creation. The moment I walked through those doors, I felt eyes on me. Not the appreciative glances I expected in my expensive dress, but something else. Whispers. Quick looks followed by turned heads. I recognized some faces from Jonathan's office, people I'd met at company picnics and holiday parties. A few nodded politely, but most suddenly found their champagne glasses fascinating. I straightened my spine and moved through the crowd, looking for my husband. The main hall was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a full orchestra. Tables were set with gold-rimmed china and centerpieces that must have cost a fortune each. I did the mental math. Yeah, $50,000 was probably just barely enough to pull this off. I grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and continued searching for Jonathan. That's when I heard the announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please gather in the main ballroom, our host Cameron Westbrook would like to say a few words. The crowd moved like a wave, and I let myself be carried with them. I stood toward the middle of the room, still looking for Jonathan's face in the sea of tuxedos. Then I saw him. Front row, phone out, recording. He looked excited, proud even, but he wasn't looking toward the stage. He was angled slightly to the right, focused on something I couldn't see yet. Cameron Westbrook took the stage, and the room fell silent. He was exactly what you'd expect from a pharmaceutical billionaire. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. He started with the usual corporate speech, thanking everyone for their dedication, talking about record profits and groundbreaking new medications. I was barely listening. I was watching Jonathan, trying to catch his eye, wondering why my husband hadn't even looked for me yet. Then Cameron's tone changed. "But tonight isn't just about business," he said, and the room stirred with interest. "Tonight is about celebrating something far more important than profit margins. Tonight is about love." My heart started pounding. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew. Maybe that instinct we ignore because it's too terrible to believe was screaming at me to run. Cameron stepped down from the stage, and the crowd parted. That's when I saw her. Bethany, Jonathan's assistant, 26 years old, blonde, the kind of woman who looked like she'd never struggled a day in her life. She was wearing a white dress, not quite a wedding dress, but close enough to make a statement. Her hand was over her mouth in that performative shock that women practice in mirrors, and then Cameron Westbrook, billionaire founder of Sterling Pharmaceuticals, got down on one knee. The room exploded in applause and gasps. I stood frozen, my champagne glass trembling in my hand. I watched Cameron pull out a ring, a diamond so large it caught every light in the room. I watched Bethany cry and nod and fall into his arms. I watched everyone surge forward to congratulate them, and I watched my husband, still recording, still in the front row, beaming like he'd just won the lottery. That's when Cameron pulled Jonathan up onto the stage. "None of this would have been possible without this man," Cameron announced, his arm around Jonathan's shoulders. "Jonathan has been more than just an exceptional employee. He's been a friend, a confidant, and the person who reminded me that life is too short not to take chances on love. So, Jonathan, as a thank you for your guidance and your friendship, I'm pleased to announce your promotion to Vice President of National Sales, effective immediately, with a signing bonus of $100,000. The room erupted again. People were shaking Jonathan's hand, patting his back. I saw colleagues who'd barely acknowledged me earlier rushing forward to congratulate him. And through it all, Jonathan's eyes swept the room, right past me, like I was invisible, like I was nobody. I should have screamed, I should have caused a scene, but instead I smiled, not a fake smile, but a real one, because in that moment, watching my husband celebrate on a stage funded by my money, standing next to his assistant who'd just gotten engaged to a billionaire, I realized something crucial. I wasn't as unprepared as they thought. I made my way to the bar and ordered another drink. I sipped slowly, watching the celebration, letting pieces fall into place. An older woman I recognized as someone from accounting came up beside me. "Quite a night," she said. "You must be so proud." "Proud?" I asked carefully. "Well, yes. I mean, from what Jonathan said, you're the one who believed in this event enough to invest. I heard you're getting a significant stake in the partnership opportunities that come from tonight. Smart business move." My blood went cold, but I kept smiling. "He said that?" "Oh yes. He's been telling everyone how brilliant you are, how you saw the potential here." She leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, I always thought it was romantic. A wife investing in her husband's success. That's real partnership." I thanked her and moved away, my mind racing. Jonathan had told people I was investing, not just funding. He'd framed my $50,000 as a business decision that would benefit me, not a gift to support his career. Which meant when I got nothing in return, when there was no stake and no partnership opportunities, it would look like I'd just made a bad business decision. He was covering his tracks, making sure that when he left me, and every cell in my body now knew that was the plan, nobody would think he'd stolen from me. They'd just think I'd invested poorly. I spent the next hour playing the perfect guest. I congratulated colleagues, admired Bethany's ring from a distance, and gathered information. That's when I learned that Jonathan and Bethany had been close for months. People spoke about it in that careful way people do when they know something's wrong but don't want to be the ones to say it. They work so well together. She really brings out his ambition. They have such great chemistry. Then I overheard something that made my blood boil. Two men in suits, speaking just loud enough near the bathroom hallway. "Smart play by Jonathan, cultivating the relationship with Bethany to get close to Westbrook. That's next-level corporate strategy." "Right? Using the goddaughter to get to the godfather? I wish I'd thought of it." Goddaughter. Bethany wasn't just Cameron's employee, she was family. This wasn't romance. This was a calculated move, and Jonathan had been right in the middle of it, using his position, using his access, probably using information about Cameron that Bethany had shared, and he'd used my money to create the perfect backdrop for their success. I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was done being played. I pulled out my phone and made 3 quick calls. Then I fixed my lipstick and walked back out into the party. That's when Bethany found me. She stumbled into the bathroom 20 minutes later, clearly tipsy on champagne and victory. When she saw me touching up my makeup, her eyes lit up with something cruel. "Oh," she said. "Diane, I was wondering if you'd show up." "Wouldn't miss it," I said calmly. "Congratulations on your engagement." She laughed, high and sharp. "Thank you. Can you believe it? Cameron is he's everything. And Jonathan has been so supportive through everything. He really helped me navigate the relationship, gave me advice on what Cameron would appreciate, how to make him see me as more than just his goddaughter." "Sounds like Jonathan was very involved," I said evenly. "Oh, he was crucial." She was drunk enough to be honest now. He's the one who convinced me to pursue it, said we could all win if we played it right, and look, she held up her ring. We did. And the best part? She leaned in, her breath sharp with alcohol. "Your money paid for my engagement party. How does that feel, Diane, knowing you funded the beginning of my new life while your husband moves on to bigger and better things?" The bathroom was silent except for the distant sound of the party. I looked at this young woman, so certain of her victory, and I felt nothing but pity. "It feels like justice," I said quietly. She blinked, confused. "What?" I set down my lipstick and turned to face her fully. Bethany, I didn't give Jonathan my money. I took out a loan against his life insurance policy. Her face changed. What are you talking about? 3 months ago, Jonathan asked me to sign some papers. He told me they were for business ventures, potential investment opportunities. I signed them. But what Jonathan didn't realize is that I actually read what I sign. Those papers gave me the authority to take out loans against his life insurance policy. The $50,000 I gave him, that's a loan against his policy, which means his policy is now void until the loan is repaid, with interest. And that debt? It's in his name, not mine. I watched the realization dawn on her face like a horror movie unfolding. You're lying. I'm really not. I pulled out my phone and showed her the documentation. Jonathan is now $50,000 in debt, plus interest that accrues daily. He has no life insurance. And the promotion money he just got? After taxes, that's about $70,000, which means he'll barely break even after paying back what he owes. And that's before the divorce I'm filing next week, where I'll be entitled to half of everything, which, by the way, is mostly my money anyway, since I've been the primary earner for the last 3 years. Bethany's hand was shaking. He said he had family money. He said he was secure. He lied. Jonathan has nothing but debt and a reputation I'm about to systematically dismantle. I picked up my purse. You know what the sad part is, Bethany? You probably could have had your fairy tale with Cameron without involving my husband, but you got greedy. You both did. And now you're engaged to a man whose goddaughter status you exploited, while the man you conspired with is about to lose everything. I walked out of that bathroom and went straight to Jonathan. He was holding court with a group of executives, laughing about something, his arm gesturing widely. I tapped his shoulder, and when he turned, I saw his face change, just for a second, from triumph to concern. Jonathan, darling, I said loudly enough for people nearby to hear. Congratulations on the promotion. We should probably discuss the loan repayment schedule soon, don't you think? $50,000 plus interest is nothing to ignore. His face went white. Diane, not here. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were celebrating transparency tonight. After all, you told everyone I was investing in partnership opportunities. I just want to make sure everyone knows about our financial arrangements, for clarity. Cameron Westbrook was suddenly beside us. Loan? Jonathan, what is she talking about? And that's when I played my final card. I pulled up the video on my phone, the one I'd recorded 3 weeks earlier when Jonathan had been talking to his friend in our living room, thinking I was asleep upstairs. His voice came through crystal clear. I'm using Diane's money to look impressive for this event. Once I get the promotion and Bethany locks down Cameron, I'm done with her. Diane served her purpose. Bethany is my real future. We're planning to wait 6 months after the promotion, then I'll file for divorce. By then, I'll have secured my position and nobody will question it. The silence around us was deafening. I watched Jonathan's career crumble in real time. Cameron's face turned to stone. You used my goddaughter as a corporate strategy? He said, his voice dangerously quiet. And you've been planning to betray your wife who funded this entire event? Security was called. Jonathan was escorted out, his protests falling on deaf ears. Bethany tried to explain, tried to claim she didn't know, but Cameron wasn't listening. I heard later that the engagement was called off that same night, but I didn't stay to watch the fallout. I collected my coat, ordered another Uber, and went home. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my newly renovated home office, looking at my calendar that's booked solid for the next year. Turns out, being the woman who outsmarted her cheating husband and exposed corporate manipulation makes you very popular in the luxury event industry. People want someone with integrity, someone who plans ahead, someone who doesn't take betrayal lying down. Jonathan is working at a retail job, trying to pay back the debt. Last I heard, he's living with his brother because he can't afford his own place. Bethany blocked him on everything and moved to California to start fresh. Cameron Westbrook personally called me to apologize and sent a donation to my favorite charity. The divorce was finalized last week, and I walked away with everything I came into the marriage with, plus half of the few assets Jonathan had accumulated. But here's what I want you to understand. People always ask me why I smiled that night when I saw the proposal. They think I'm some kind of revenge genius who planned everything perfectly. The truth is simpler and scarier. I smiled because I'd already stopped trusting my husband weeks before that night. I smiled because when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them and pow. I smiled because I'm a black woman who learned a long time ago that nobody is coming to save you. You save yourself. I just needed to let karma drive while I watched from a safe distance with my finances intact, my dignity preserved, and my future brighter than ever.